Well, hello there, everyone. Welcome back to Suzerain, Kingdom of Rizia, where last episode we gave a speech in the Alliance of Nations. Fucking Smolak is threatening to not hand over Zilla, and we are having to deal with the fucking offshore crisis. The fucking Valgslandians were on our side for some reason. Let's see what the news says. Okay, it's good PR for the university. Zilla not handing the fucking land back. Sordish tourists passing our burden. King overturns House of Delegates majority passes safety laws. Was made with the good of Rizian citizens in mind. Exactly. Rizian Navy asserts sovereign rights to new gas field. Okay, what about the international news? Significant reduction of Arcasian military presence in war-torn regions. Kunal emerges as a strategic ATO hub. And shocker, Velen refuses to relinquish Zilla. Valkslandian Chancellor interrupts AN session. Rizian's wine export reached new heights. Good. Hegel tightens Galmaland trade. OMEC reports decline in East Merkopan economic integration. Arcasia extends aid to impoverished free cities. All eyes on South Merkapa at upcoming AN session. Gas field standoff. Rizia sends Navy to Polesian waters. It's not Polesian waters, it's disputed waters. Not Polesian waters, disputed waters. Vital rail link fails. Ah, shit. Okay, off to the wine launch we go. In the fertile fields of Kalus, the Quantavo vineyards were among the oldest in Rizia. They were run by a reverend winemaking family now in the 5th generation, who had long ago been awarded noble status for the fine wines they provided the kingdom. Tonight they had invited my family and council over for the ceremony and uncorking of their latest vintage, Rummus the Red. Bottled on my coronation day, it was now ready for drinking. Why are they calling me the Red, though? I wished I was in more of a celebratory mood. Velen's announcement at the AN had plunged the country into panic. I was besieged by demands to take action to get Zilla back. As if that weren't enough, tensions with Palais were higher than ever. We were still awaiting the arbitration results. In the meantime, the Rizian Navy remained deployed around the Aureus field despite the international community's growing concern. For now, all I had to do was open a wine bottle, but even that was politicized. Hugo had stressed the importance of keeping the Quantuavo family loyal to our house. Our motorcade rolled up to the vineyard entrance, where a festival tent decorated in the blue, white, and gold of the Rizian flag had been set up. After a thorough security sweep, my mother, Stella, Vina, Hugo, and I proceeded to our table. Pablo smoothly approached and poured us glasses of sparkling water. Had the pleasure of supervising the pre-tasting with the vineyard staff. I must say the family has truly outdone themselves this time. So you're drunk already? Oh, splendid. It's named after me, it had better be good. Honestly, it's a good fit for you. It's light on the palate at first, but it has hidden depths. My mother smiled wryly. Hidden depths indeed. That sounds perfect, Mr. Adria. Please stick to the conservative pours for His Majesty. It's unbecoming of a king to get intoxicated at these functions. Lucita, Elena, and Lorenzo walked past us and were seated at the table next to ours. All three were dressed more festively than the simple formal wear they wore to council meetings, but Lucida's slinky, intricately beaded yellow gown was particularly eye catching. I'm sure it was. My mother turned to me and muttered under her breath, "Oh my, the mountains of Monteclar are on full display tonight." Just jealous that for once someone else's outfit is better than yours. Vina stifled a giggle. I still don't understand what we're doing here, especially with all that's been going on. Politics, Your Highness. In case our foreign situations escalates, we require the support of House Torres and our home province more than ever. I mean, why would they not be happy about my dealings with Soil? I'm selling their wine. Uh, I know they're not happy about my dealings with Soilland. I mean, probably the the, the tourists. They don't hold the Republic or its citizens in particularly high regard, no. But more pressing is Evelyn's announcement regarding Zilla. You have to reassure them that their assets will remain stable. The rest of the attendees began filling in. It was a small elite crowd comprising barons and baronesses, viscounts, and CEOs from all around the region. They bowed as they passed my table, but some of their smiles seemed ungenuine. I thought I had someone whispered sword lover. Huh. Um, this is an absolute monarchy, you do remember. I can have you killed. Stella flashed me a look of warning. There's no pleasing these people, darling. Better ignore them. After everyone had settled in, the head of the winery gave a short opening greeting, then welcomed me onto the stage. I stepped behind the microphone. A magnum-sized bottle of Ramos the Red stood on the table behind me. Great citizens of Valkyries. Yes, I am honored to lend my name to this exceptional creation produced by the best winemakers in the country, no, the world. Uh, should we spy? Yes, I think we should. This one will inspire reverence for the venerable house star. Nah, okay. No. Let's. As much as I'm tempted by the yes, even swords part, the wines of this vineyard have always delighted our palates in times of joy and calmed our nerves in times of sorrow. I'm heartened that so many of you have come here to celebrate tonight, especially in the wake of recent events. I'm confident that with your help, Rizia will become stronger than ever. As the most privileged province in Rizia, Volangeris has a duty to lead the way forward. No longer can we no longer can we ignore the plight of those less fortunate than us. It is time for us to accept one another's differences, regardless of status or nationality. I heard a few polite claps. Yeah, I know one thing for certain. By this time next year, we'll be raising a glass for Roma Soret to reunited Rizia. The attendees applauded slightly more loudly. It's all the applause I get. I'm your king! For now, we will bear witness to the miracles that the Cantuavo family have worked with the humble grape. I heard cheers as a representative of the winery handed me a ceremonial corkscrew and a glass. Huh, that would be interesting. I'd like to invite Princess Vina to do the honors. Vina blushed furiously as she got on stage when assistants quickly procured a second glass. My daughter opened the bottle and poured us each a small amount. To all of you, drink. We clinked glasses and drank. It was delicious, a light, refreshing taste gradually developed into a darker and more complex finish. There was a final round of applause as Vina and I stepped off stage. Pavel and the winery staff began circulating around the tables with wine and food. Thank you for the invitation, Father. I thought it was a lovely speech, even if the audience didn't. Uh, I wanted my successor on stage with me. You're the future of Rizia, after all. Vina blushed again. If I'm lucky. Vina walked over to sit next to her grandmother. I spent a good several hours mingling with relatives and fellow nobles, posing for photographs with the winemakers and fending off journalists. Every time I attempted to sit down and eat, I was deluged with more requests. My glass, on the other hand, was constantly being refilled. By the end of the evening, I was having some trouble keeping names and faces straight. The tent gradually emptied out as the guests departed. The winery had an attached luxury villa where our delegation had been invited to stay for the night. Hugo, Estella, Vina, and I began saying our final goodbyes before making our way upstairs. Despite the shaky start, I think our fellow guests came away quite happy. I would call this evening a smashing success. With the emphasis on smashing, Vina was clutching my mother's arm, looking half dazed. Almost the red, long may he reign. She hiccuped. That's right, darling, now let's get you to bed. I heard an uproaring burst of laughter from the other side of the room. My three counselors were still at the table. Lucida's eyes were sparkling as she regaled the other two with an apparently hilarious anecdote. I'll be right behind you. Just have to say goodnight to my staff. Take your time, sweetheart. She gave me a knowing smile. Vina was too busy attempting a pirouette in her ball gown to register what I'd said. As my family headed out, I walked over to my counselor's table, and he just stormed into my barracks without a stitch on, screaming, "If you weren't a duchess, I'd have you drawn and quartered." Uh, yeah, what are you three so merry about? Oh, she, Lorenzo, and Elena immediately straightened up and stopped laughing. Your Majesty, the Duchess was telling us about the time she hid her commanding officer's fatigues while he was swimming. It was a dare back in basic training. I had to scrub the kitchen floor for 3 weeks, but it was worth it. It's part of a drinking game, Your Majesty, a rather infantile one. Can I play? The three of them looked at each other. Yes, of course, Your Majesty. Pavel, some wine for the king, please. Right away, Mr. Escobar. Pavel approached the table and gave me a generous pour of Romaster Red. Come on, everyone, just lighten up. Why don't you play too, Pavel? I. It's an order. I detected cautious excitement in his eyes. It would be my pleasure, Your Majesty. He sat down, Lucida rubbed her hands together. Perfect, Pavel, I think we'd all love to learn more about you. Now, have you played Facts or Fiction before? Uh, yeah, we are a king. We are above such things. We have never learned of this game. I have not, Duchess. It's simple. You tell us three statements about yourself. Two of them have to be true, and one must be a lie. Each of us then guesses which statement is false. If we guess wrong, we have to drink. She gestured to Pavel, who quickly topped up her wine glass. It was just my turn. I let His Majesty choose the next player. Let's hear from Pavel. My butler gave a graceful nod. Certainly, Your Majesty. He paused to think. My father once made me weed a patch of stinging nettles as punishment for shirking off on duty. Little did he know I rather enjoyed the sensation. I once overheard a Romburgian royal valet make a demeaning comment about Queen Mother Estella during a diplomatic visit. I persuaded our chef to put an excessive amount of pepper in his food at the staff dinner. He looked down at the table. In the 20s, I wrote a poem that was selected for the annual Rizian Literary Compendium. Pseudonymously, of course. Lucida laughed lightly. There's the falsehood. Running a royal household doesn't leave one with time for poetry. The butler's wine descriptions have verged on poetry at times. I prefer to believe he doesn't take perverse pleasure in stinging nettles. And I'd rather not believe the story about the Ramburgian valet, as hilarious as it might have been. You don't like stinging nettles, Pavel. No one does. Pavel smiled grimly. Correct, that was the worst pain I have ever felt in my life. Uh, I want to know more about this poem. There's not much to know, Your Majesty. It was many years ago. Lucita cleared her throat. I think we've forgotten something. She turned to Lorento and the two clinked glasses and drank. My foreign counselor had a contemplative look as he put his glass down. I read that compendium regularly. What was your pseudonym? It isn't important. Wait, let me guess. Paul Adair from 1929. I was the shadow to your light, a silent witness to the burden you bore. A chasm yawns between us now, eager to be filled with talk, with touch. Huh. Pavel has a crush on us, doesn't he? Interesting. Unfortunately, we have already committed to romancing Lucida, but maybe on a future playthrough. Like two rising tides beneath a setting sun, we are pulled back to each other with a force that knows no bounds. And just the velvet embrace of night claims the day's end. Your fire consumes me, my heart sobbed. He has interrupted by a sudden. Interesting. He was interrupted by a sudden clatter coming from Pavel's direction. Everyone turned to look at my butler. Forgive me, I dropped my wine glass. Of course. I'll have it cleared up at once. He turned away to signal a winery staff member's silence descended around our table. Well, whichever palace maid he wrote that for is one lucky girl. Sure, palace maid, of course. Shall we continue? Uh, Miss Werner, if you please. I still find this childish. In my day, if people wanted to get truth, they got. If people wanted to get drunk, they got drunk. But if you insist. She thought for a moment. I have an antique coin collection that's worth more than my house. My late husband and I once undertook a 3-week sailing trip to Galmland and back, and I once had to stop Queen Liza from purchasing a diamond necklace with Rizian treasury money. Uh, my grandmother would never have tried to embezzle from the treasury. I agree, Liza the Great was beyond those shenanigans. I can believe Her Majesty Queen Liza would attempt such a purchase, but not that you would stop it, Miss Werner. Lorento grinned and shook his head. It's too easy. If there is one thing you hated more than sailing, it was your dearly departed husband. Helena sighed. Yes, that's right. Well, let's drink. I picked up my glass and took a healthy sip. Lucida and Pavel did the same. You've got a fortune in antique coins, do you? Ask me anything about Markian ducats and resident medallions. Well done, Miss Werner. Who's next? Mr. Esquibel. With pleasure. He gave his wine glass a dramatic swirl. When I'm in a diplomatic meeting that I know is trivial, I draw caricatures instead of taking notes. When I was just out of university, I challenged the mayor of Salabas to a duel. I accidentally shouted All Hail the New Queen at His Majesty King Valero's coronation. Uh, you despise aggression, Lorento. You wouldn't have instigated a duel. He would if it was over a woman. I doubt he'd admit to drawing caricatures at meetings, no matter how unimportant. The duel scenario seems the most far-fetched to me. I've heard the duel story 100 times, Lorento. You didn't challenge the mayor of Salabas, it was the Earl of Yalis. Lorento gave her an abashed look. You know me too well, Miss Werner. Lucita drained her glass as Elena, Pavel, and I watched. What was the duel about? The current day Countess of Yalis, neither of us had the nerve to shoot, but he won the grand prize in the end. How anticlimactic, Mr. Escobel. She tapped on her glass. Pavel dutifully refilled it. Who's our next victim? Since I missed your story, I think you should take another turn, Duchess Cesaro. Lucita gave me a sly smile. As you wish, Your Majesty. Despite my Azaro heritage, I couldn't stand the sight of blood as a child. There was a time when I fainted from pricking my own finger. My cousin Zola confided in me that she despised her husband to be, so I falsified evidence that he was having an affair with a commoner. The engagement was broken off at once, and I have a lucky set of undergarments that I wear to important meetings and military exercises. Lorento raised an eyebrow. Intriguing, dear Duchess, but false. Cesaros don't fall prey to superstition. If there's one thing Cesaros don't do is faint at the sight of blood, that's the lie. Agreed, I'm afraid the Duchess has made this too easy. No, the blood story is so implausible that it must be true. I have my doubts about your role in the dissolution of your cousin's engagement. Lucita shook her head. Mr. Escobel had it right. I don't wear lucky underwear on important days. Oh, drink? Powell, Elena, and I drank. Lucida continued with a mischievous smile on her face. Actually, on such occasions, I find it invigorating to wear nothing at all beneath my uniform. Loretto and Elena shot each other amused looks. Powell politely coughed. Perhaps now would be a good time for the Cesaro to retire. There's been a great deal of wine flowing tonight. It's all harmless fun, Pavel, isn't it, Your Majesty? Yes, we all deserve some reprieve from the stiff formalities of royal life. Pavel frowned. My apologies to you both. I was only trying to be helpful. If you'd like to be helpful, you can fetch us his new bottle. This one's almost empty. Straight away, Justice Cesaro. He disappeared to the kitchen, and came back with more wine. Lucida looked at me expectantly. Sure, I'll give it a go myself, if you don't mind. My counselors looked at each other with no small amount of excitement. I could feel my head spinning. I racked my brain for ideas. Um, sure. I have a birthmark on my chest in the exact shape of the Palais Administrative District. Can belch the risen national anthem. Uh, sure. Growing up in Palas Torres, I once mistook a priceless Markian vase for a urinal. I was having trouble concentrating. I blurted out the first thing that came to mind. I feel so goddamn lonely all the time. Sometimes I'd wish the 26th Uprising had succeeded. The others exchanged troubled looks. Lorento cautiously spoke up. Of course you don't wish the uprising assassinated, your majesty, that was the lie. The others at the table quickly nodded their assent. I could see Lucida scrutinizing me closely. The others quickly nodded their assent. Ah, sure, you guessed it. That was my lie. There was palpable feeling of relief in the air. So, the Palace Administrative District. May we see it, your majesty? Sure, why not? I'm drunk enough. I unbuttoned the top button of my shirt and showed her the birthmark. Looks more like Kirute to me. Your Majesty, you have a long day ahead of you tomorrow. Why don't we adjourn? Oh, we're just getting to the good stuff. Lorenzo pushed back his chair. This elder statesman is going to call it an evening. Your Majesty, thank you for an enlightening time. Yes, we all learned a great deal, possibly too much. Lucita shook her head. The more intimately we know each other, the better we can fight as a team. It's an old army trick. Shall I escort you to your quarters, your majesty? I'll get there myself. Sorry, Pavel. Not on this playthrough. Not on this run. Next one, maybe. We've already committed to romancing Lucita. I lurched unsteadily to my feet. Pavel rushed to my side and took my arm. Let's go, your majesty. I suddenly became acutely aware of how much wine I'd had to drink. Pavel helped me keep steady as we made our way upstairs to my suite. He swiftly ushered me inside and took off my coat. The butler's quarters here are connected by an adjoining door. Just knock if you need me. Pavel walked over to the side of the room. He paused with his hand on the doorknob. So, that poem, those feelings, it was a very long time ago, your majesty. He turned the knob. It's fine, Pavel, I won't tell us all. Relief blossomed across Pavel's face. He bowed. Thank you. I don't share your feelings, but you're still my friend. Yes, of course, I was foolish to hope otherwise. Good night, your majesty. I'm sorry, Pavel, not on this playthrough. He left the room and gently closed the door behind him. With some difficulty, I undressed and crawled into bed. I slept more soundly than I had in months. Well, that was an interesting night out. Large gatherings prohibited in Zila. It's not good. Does not sound good at all. Sorland offers investment opportunity. Sure. It's gonna be it's expensive, but let's go to Sorland. Sorland prepares to host King Ramas. Rufus, Crag's royal gossip, Valancore's elite turn up for Callus uncorking. Press was kicked out. Xena Continent position as anti-CSP front. Lesbia condemns Rizia. Supports Palais in arbitration claim. Rumberg denounces Velen over Zilla claim. And the trip to Swordland will have to be left for next episode. Thank you all very much for watching. As always, I have been Pope. Please do remember to like, comment, and subscribe. I will see you all next time.